Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by, let's get it in order, was Plain Truth, Spurs Chemo, Sleeping Warrior, Ranty, Jay, Flataz, Arwin, and Alan. How are you all doing?
Hola. Hello.
Hello.
Can you post the watch page link? I think I've lost it. We're live now, I assume, yes?
Yeah, we're live. Just type in Flat Earth and then do live. You'll find it.
Yes, I was just saying to Woz, most things are assumed. The radius of the sun, the Earth, objects.
Listen, let me interrupt a sec. I don't mean to be rude, but let me just illustrate something to Woz about the point that you're about to make, the assumption. Nathan, if you wouldn't mind presenting me, and Woz, if you could click on my thumbnail in the Hangout so that you can see my screen. What I've done is I've just, I'll make this big. Arwin, just make sure you're checking the back door, dude, just while I'm busy playing with something. If you can see my screen now, Woz, I've typed in Google, how do we know the distance to the sun? And the answers that I get, the first few answers say, and look at the key words that they use. When astronomers measure the parallax of an object and know the separation between the two positions from which it is observed, they can, and this is the word, they can calculate the distance to the object. To calculate the distance to a star, astronomers observe it from different places along the Earth's orbit around the sun. Right, so the first answer talks about a calculation, okay? And the next one says, who was the first person to measure the distance to the sun? In 1653, astronomer Christian Huygens calculated the distance from the Earth to the Sun. So he calculated the distance from the Earth to the Sun, but the question was, who measured it? So the answer was given in the form of a calculation rather than a measurement. Now, ballers would accept this as answering the question, but I look at that and say that this clearly doesn't answer the question because the question was the word measure, not the word calculate.
Yeah,
now,
good one.
So then you when you ask how many miles is it from the Earth to the Sun, the Sun is at an average distance of 93 million miles away from Earth. So far, blah 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 blah. That's not a good example. But my point is, when they assume or accept or deduce the distance to the Sun, then it seems to be not proven that it is 93 million miles, and there doesn't seem to be evidence of that measurement of any of the celestial bodies. So when you're saying, oh well, it shouldn't change its apparent size. And I say, well, rainbows don't change their apparent size when we chase them. Then the question becomes, what is it? What is the sun? If they don't know how far away it is, and it's one of the most basic questions. So why is it that you're like questioning the application of the angular size to the sun and how it doesn't appear to change or does but small, but don't accept the fact that you guys can't tell the distance to the sun?
Can you do us a favor and scroll back up to the top of that Google page, that Google search? Please.
Yeah, go on after that. Go on.
How do we know the distance to the sun? Can you just put before the question mark? Can you put on a flat Earth?
Well, I can give you the answer to that.
Because that's what I'm coming from. I don't care much for the heliocentric.
Right. Well,
That's funny that you.
that
I'd like to respond to that. Was
hang on. Let me give it to you. Here's the answer. If I go into my favorites, because this comes up regularly, and then I look at the one from Smokescreen Designs. If you watch this video it's only 16 minutes, but if you watch it in full, he goes through the trig on a sphere and then compares it to the trig on a flat plane.
Yeah.
And shows the
Anthony,
difference.
They use the same principle, but on a disk.
Arwen, I don't care about the sphere.
Yeah, but they use the same principle of trigonometry using angular sizes. And what the flat earther diskers have done is basically apply the same trigonometry as is done to determine the distance of the sun on a globe, and they did it on a disk because it works the same. Just has a different base assumption, the model. So where
Right.
the globe assumes a sphere in relation to the angular positions, the flat Earth
So the globe,
disk
the
in
globe
relation
assumes
to the angular
the globe.
positions.
The globe assumes a sphere, and it takes measurements to get the distance, average distance off the sun to
No.
be about 92
No.
million
No.
miles, right? That's what the
No.
globe does.
No, that's not what the globe
There's
does.
no measurements involved.
What the globe
Measurement.
does,
That's just
What was the word you used?
angular. There's
they accept a
the
deduced
location.
Okay, but they're assuming, they're making assumptions.
Well, they're calculating it based on the transit of Venus and Mars by using Kepler's third law. But when you look into it, it's based around the astronomical
Assumptions.
figure called the astronomical unit, that 1 AU.
So what
Go
can
on.
we do on a flat Earth to measure the sun? What assumptions can we make
So
That
you
we
to
don't
do the
change
same on a flat Earth?
you change the ball into a North Pole centric disk, and then you apply
Right.
the same trigonometry, and then you get different distances.
And then what's the height range of the sun? Most flat
Again,
earthers say
guys?
something between 3,000 and 7,000 miles. Is that right?
Sure, that's the math based on the if you don't presuppose it's a ball and you apply a flat, then it appears to be around about 5,000 miles or kilometers.
Yeah, I think that was it.
You need to check that video
Miles or kilometers? Which one?
out. I can't
Miles or
remember.
kilometers? Which one?
Uh,
I've heard miles.
I think it's 2,351 miles. I'm not sure. I'd have to rewatch the video to get the exact angle, the exact distance. But is there a point to your question, or is it answering for the sake?
Well,
of
It's still just an assumption based on the angular
well, I'm just
relations.
asking
There's
for you
no
guys
proof
to have a
of
good think
literal
about what
distance.
you're. I'm just asking so you guys have a good think of what you're actually saying.
Well,
We
I'm
are.
Because, you know,
We have thought of
three-
what we're saying. We know what we're saying.
3,000 miles is a tad less than 16 million feet.
Yeah, but you do realize that when you said the phrase most flat earthers say somewhere between 3,000 and 7,000 or whatever values you gave, also most flat earthers are also happy to say we don't know what the sun is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I
Right.
think that flat Earth community is still
but it
somewhat
produces
divided
light.
around this principle, and there's
But it
probably
produces
still a
light.
lot of.
You don't know. You can't prove that it produces light.
There's still quite
It's
a
a-
lot of heavenly
it's a light
body
source.
literalists
It's a
out
source
there
of
among
light.
the flat earthers. So
You can't prove
It's a
source of
light
either.
source.
You can't prove it's a source of light either. The only thing you can say about the sun is it's a yellow disk in the sky. It's as far as
an
it
apparent
yeah.
disk,
white.
And an apparent size.
an apparent disk with an angular size.
Yeah.
Well, no, because you can't get the angular size because you don't know its actual size or distance.
Which-
No. That's not how
which-
angular. No, angular size.
Well, I'm not going to go into this, but it is correct what I just said. You have to know to get the angular size. You need to know its actual size or its distance, and you don't know either.
No.
The only thing you can do is measure
Take
its
observations
angle in
and
the
just
sky.
take the angular size of how large it appears to be in relation to your observation.
Yeah, its angle size. You can measure its angle size.
Yeah, that's angular
correct.
size.
No, it's not. Angular size is a sum. Angle size is what you're talking about. There's a difference.
This is good, guys. Now, all you have to do is actually go out and do some work on it.
Well, prove it's a tangible object first. Prove it's a light source. Prove it's anything like you say what it is or believe what it is.
I haven't said it's anything.
Well, you said it was a light source, and it isn't. There's no
Oh,
evidence.
light source. Yeah.
Yeah, you have no proof of that.
It's a fair point.
No proof it isn't.
Well,
No, that's not how proving
it's
works.
like saying the Earth's a ball, and then we say, well, there's no proof of that. And then you say there's no proof that it isn't. Well, we can't prove it's a ball if it's not a ball. But you can't prove it's a sun. But we can prove that there's no evidence of a sun by asking you for what the evidence of the sun being tangible actually is, and they can't prove it's a three-dimensional object, helium balls.
Riley,
With
Yes.
all the laws. Go on, Alan.
are you denying the sun's a light source?
Yes, you can't prove it's a light source. It is a light, but it isn't a light source, because if it was, you'd be able to prove that it was tangible.
No, you can prove
Okay,
there
let's
is
say-
sunlight,
well, then let's-
and it seems to be coming from a singular direction of which the apparent sun disk is the focal point. That is the
Does it
correct
give off light?
assumption.
Does it give light?
It emits light.
No.
yeah.
No,
Okay.
no, you have no proof that
emits light.
it gives light. It just seems visible there at the focal point from which the sunlight, the daylight, is coming.
Yeah, you can't tell whether the sun is a manifestation or a physical object. And if you can, or claim that you can, produce the evidence that
Just-
shows its tangible nature.
This is just a
Just a
classic
quick-
FE
A
position.
quick shout out, please, if I may, to Thunderclap. I wish I was drunk.
We don't know anything, but everything you suggest is wrong.
No, we know what we don't know.
How can you know what you don't know?
Well,
Because
we know
you can
what we
figure
don't
out
know.
what it's not.
Yeah.
Well, then we can. You
It-
can then say
it's like the astronauts in the spacesuit inside a vacuum chamber. We know that there's no evidence of anybody getting in a spacesuit inside a vacuum chamber. That's a hole in the evidence, and we
Well,
know it's
there
missing.
is. There
I've
is.
seen-
That
I've
they
seen
did it
videos.
once, and the guy almost died. That's actually on camera. We did see that.
I've seen that.
Let me rephrase it. There's no evidence that an astronaut or a man got inside a spacesuit and survived, or
Exactly.
didn't nearly die.
Arwen, what other shape would work to light up the underneath of clouds?
It has no relation to the shape.
Well, what does have relation to the
Really?
shape is
Yeah.
any
Oh, so just one quick question to Was. Suppose that we assumed the flat Earth, assumed the distance, gave you all the numbers, gave you the calculations, said it's this far. How would you verify any of what we're telling you? We could just tell you the sun is this far, the Earth is this big, this is what happens, this is the way it works. How would you actually verify? Because you've just told us you haven't even verified the ball Earth theory.
Actually, he wouldn't
Yeah.
have to verify. He'd have to disprove it.
Yeah, but we could just tell him
No,
anything.
if you
We could say that we could
if
support.
everything you came,
We could assume the Earth is.
if it matched observations,
What
if it
observation?
matched observations, a lot of people would look into it.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
mean
but
if the pattern works out of the model, still
Well-
is no proof. It is still
No,
not
hold on. Arwen. I want
scientific
to know-
proof that
Oh,
it is
I want to
literally.
know how Was would verify. If we gave Was 5,000 mile, distance of the. How would you verify what we're telling you? How you Was? How would you verify it?
He couldn't,
By
could he?
watching it
You
set.
couldn't. We could give you any number of the sun being so high. We could tell you the wall is this thick. How would you verify any of what we're telling you?
I wouldn't need to if it matched observation. I'd go with what you said and probably speak with others about it. And I don't have the means to verify it. I'm just a
that's
YouTuber.
what I'm trying to get at. Was nobody does. Who has the
I'm not
means?
even. Hey,
It
hey,
seems
dude!
that
I'm not even a
was
videographer.
sets for models, even though they are pseudoscience. That's what he's basically claiming here.
No.
Yeah, that
No,
is.
I'm-
what you-
I'm just
that
trying to show
is
the problem
exactly
that-
what you're saying.
I'm just trying to show the problem that we are
No.
having. You are having is the actual
Misunderstanding.
verification of anything. Yes. So how do we verify that the sun is 93 million miles away? How do we verify the radius of the Earth? How do you verify the sun is 93 million miles away? You yourself. How do you verify the radius of the Earth? How does
Well, you go and
anybody?
learn a few things. You get lots of money, and you buy the
Mhm.
big toys, and then you can do it.
Okay.
If you get permission. Just because you have a lot of money and big toys
not my
doesn't make
point.
you
No.
able to actually go to
You guys are off point.
beyond the Arctic. So
I could suggest how you would yourself verify the size and shape of the
Radar.
distance. Well, no, I mean, because even back then, their measurements, like 2,000, 2,500 years ago, they weren't precise, but their same their calculations, we could still do the same thing today with more precise understandings and get those numbers more so what we understand them to be now. But with the 2-stick experiment, you could use 3 and you get that to be the size of the Earth, and then it wouldn't be an assumption, the size and the spherical shape of the Earth, and use those numbers to then determine the distance and size of the moon and the sun, and using all these information together, it would give you more of a, you say measurement, but it would be more of a, I mean, you say, I'm sorry, a calculation, but the calculation would give you the measurement.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, I mean, it's just there's some things that you can't measure the way that you would measure something else, like with a what do you call it, a ruler or a normal scale. But even things on the smaller realm, like when you weigh like an atom, when they have the size and mass of an atom, they don't, you have to use calculations based off other information. You can't just use like a scale or something like that.
So I came across a friend who was talking with another friend who said his father was responsible for constructing spacesuits and tested one in a vacuum with absolutely no problems whatsoever. So I'm going to try to be contacting that friend to see if he'd be willing to somehow verify that hearsay evidence.
Well, it's anecdotal evidence, isn't it? But let's just say, for the record, let's just say hypothetically that he was unable to contact it and verify it to be true with some evidence. Would you accept that that was good quality evidence, or would you say that that was borderline?
No, it's hearsay for sure. But I know the guy that my friend talked to, and I have a relationship with him. So I'm going to try to contact him to verify not only that he said it, but then also whether or not he'd be willing to somehow substantiate.
Yeah, that's a really good position to be. That's the correct position to be. Like, you have to skeptically or critically analyze that which you're told to be that is true, because if you didn't and just accepted it, then look at M. Scott Veitch. Daddy told him that the Earth was a ball, and M. Scott Veitch pushes it. So, everyone's dad's the best dad in the world, right?
Well, I have found my kids. Yeah. I have found the videos I was referring to. I think that I found a few of them actually, on YouTube of astronauts testing their spacesuits in a vacuum.
Do you want to present the video and let's look at it, or?
Sure. I'll just, it's a short video, so I'll play it. It's one of those videos where you can maneuver around the picture, the video yourself. But I'll go ahead and I'll play it.
So if Nathan's watching, he should be watching. Just share his screen, and anybody in the chat, just click on his thumbnail in the chat.
Okay, is that showing up all right?
Now, my first question is, where's the vac meter to show that it is a vacuum? And then how would we know that the vac meter is actually reflecting what's inside? Because this is fakeable stuff, right? And it's coming from NASA.
Yeah, sure.
It's coming from NASA as well.
Yeah, I found others. I'll play this one first, but yeah, it doesn't say on, and there's no meter that says how much.
Because it could be the case that he's in a decompression chamber and it's putting pressure.
Let's look. He's wearing a fabric suit. So if he's really in a vacuum chamber, then we know what will happen to the gloves. You would see it at first. They would all start to expand like a balloon. So let's see. Let's see if this is real or if this is just another total fake video by NASA.
And to be honest, that doesn't look like a vacuum chamber. It looks like a decompression chamber, where they put pressure into it rather than remove stuff from it.
Well, the suit does seem to be puffed out a little bit.
Oh yeah,
I'm
not seeing it puffing out. Where is it?
Like on his.
He can still move his fingers. No, it was like that. It's the way it's designed. This is ridiculous.
To be honest, that doesn't prove anything, that video, because you can't tell that that's a vacuum chamber. What you would need really is somebody to put a glass of water in there and watch the water boil, because then we would know that it is a vacuum.
Exactly.
Yeah, all things. Water, you'd have a can in there. so it crushes. Things to show. Look, this is crushing, and the man survived.
If I said to you that was just a decompression chamber and they were putting pressure in there, if they were moving any air in there at all, would you be able
Nothing.
to?
They just put a guy in there, says, "Look, now we're drawing the air out." There's no proof whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree.
No change in the way his suit looks from the beginning to end. It's total fakery.
Okay.
Let's get Neil deGrasse Tyson in that big, massive vacuum chamber where they did the the basketball, the bowling ball with the feather. Neil. Let's get him in there with a vacuum suit on, a space suit on, and I'll pull the lever. Let's see what happens.
Okay, so this is another video here. I'm not sure what data they're showing because I can't hear it, but yeah, actually no, yeah, they have a glove in there.
That's quite good.
Yeah, and then they do have the data right there. And so, yeah, that glove.
Yeah, but the only problem with this one is that they cover what is boiling the water. You see, look, the water is half covered, so we don't know if that's a stove or something is heating.
That's true, but that balloon is blowing up.
I knew you got that one, Alan.
Yeah, but to be fair, you could blow a balloon up, couldn't you? Very easily with a small.
You could blow a balloon up. They would need to show that. They would need to show that bottle. In fact,
hold on, guys.
I agree. That's a valid
Need to be
point.
there.
Oh, guys, if you're getting 50 million bucks a day, you could do anything.
Not really. Yeah. You can't falsify physics, right? If that's really
it is kind of weird how the camera is basically all over the place. This just looks like a movie set.
And why is it showing an altimeter?
That's BBC for you.
There's cameras all over the place and they're moving. This looks like a movie production.
Why was it showing an altimeter then? Because that's going to be showing the pressure, right? So I'm showing. Are they using an altimeter to show the change?
It's not relevant, Riley.
Well, they're showing it.
It's not relevant.
I agree. I'm asking why would they show it?
Yeah, maybe I should turn the volume
This
on.
is a movie production.
You can't show these people anything.
Isn't that
Clint Eastwood? You can show it, but this is a movie production.
Everything's a lie to them.
Oh, and is that Clint Eastwood? Is that Clint Eastwood?
The problem is, Alan, they always seem to do one thing, one step short of what would satisfy us. Like they go through the whole.
Spurs, nothing would satisfy you. Ever.
Well, they seem to go one step just before we would say,
nothing would satisfy you.
Why not put the bottle? Why not have that bottle of water on the other side of the room?
I'll agree with what you said.
Spurs is right.
But,
I did
do what you asked.
If I was asked to do something by one of the ballers and I didn't quite do what they asked me to do, they would immediately jump on it. So why is it not the same when it's NASA?
I'm just wondering why the camera inside of the room was moving like somebody was holding it. Ridiculous.
I mean, look how we get grilled about heights of things not in the right place and blah blah blah. You know, this should be the same thing. You, Alan, should be saying you should be saying the same thing, Alan. Why is that water positioned like that?
Yeah, everything was in the right place. The only thing you'd have to be assuming that everybody in there was trying to mislead.
No, you wouldn't. You'd have to be questioning the credibility of the evidence.
That the water was boiling the way it should have, and the
no. You would have to you'd have to be not assuming that they were trying to fake it. You'd have to be actually critically analyzing the quality of the evidence. That, let's be honest, it's NASA. They've got a reputation for lying, so you'd have to look at it critically.
It's the BBC, so.
Yeah, but it was wasn't it a NASA spacesuit?
Still, the suit didn't show any signs of expanding like suits should. So it should all work out the same time. And if you want it to be a scientific evidence-worthy shot, then it should be a singular shot from beginning to end. Basically, a guy putting the bottle of water there, a guy putting the glove over that nozzle or whatever that was supposed to be, just putting it there. Guy in a suit walking in there, and then just show it in one singular shot, non-moving. Then I'd be more inclined to believe it's not a movie production.
Sunsets and whatnot. I mean, has that not been, kind of explained of how the sun sets on a flat Earth? No, I thought we understood that now. Yes. Sunset, sunrise.
Sorry, I was reading something.
Because I'm just reading the chat here. He wants to, the explanation for sunset. So does he have an explanation? Alternate? No, awake souls.
Oh, right.
So I thought we had an explanation for sunsets, or
but the observations don't fit the explanation. Is the only thing, is because that if that explanation were true, then you would see the sun, the angular size of the sun. You'd be able to measure actually drastically the differences, not only at sunset, but throughout the entire day.
Jay,
Yeah,
could you
that's my
scroll a
point.
movie to him actually doing something?
I,
I don't want to see his
I
whiny
think that
face yapping.
observations don't agree with flat Earth sunsets.
Well, I mean, I thought I had
So
very
what?
good.
So what? We can look at the Metabunk curve calculator and show the horizon is only 1.2 miles away on a 30-mile observation, and we can tell that it's clearly more than 10. So yeah, maybe the sun. Maybe the sun.
So we've reached an impasse then, have we? It doesn't. Neither model works. It doesn't. It's not flat and it's not globe.
No, it's definitely not globe. But I'm not.
And it's definitely. Hey, it's definitely not flat, buddy.
No.
What do you mean it's definitely? How can you prove it's not flat?
What?
Do you have
You
any?
just have to observe the sunset.
Not flat.
Yeah, but we just told you. How many times do we need to freaking tell you?
Got plenty of evidence.
The sun only has angular relationships to the position of the Earth. There is no proof. There is no proof of the shape of the Earth based on the heavenly bodies. Period.
Arwin's correct.
It doesn't work on flat.
Only if you choose to have that view.
I would suggest that you could use the lines of latitude and longitude to get the shape, the same shape actually that we see to be for it to be at least to be a spherical. If you use the those lines of longitude correctly, because you wouldn't be able to make another shape like that, and it wouldn't have to be perfect, but it would have to fit pretty close to a spherical shape.
Do we need to repeat myself again?
No. So, about that tangible sun.
What about it? Doesn't need to be tangible.
Yeah, it does. You need to prove it's a tangible object if you're going to argue that it's anything to do with
it. Lights up. On a flat Earth, you should be able to get an idea of the sun.
And I've given you the link.
Lighting up the bottom,
the link for it.
Lighting up the bottom of clouds.
Shut up, I'm not going to repeat myself again. You keep on harping and whining on the same damn point. There is no proof that you can derive from the heavenly bodies about the shape of the Earth. Now get it in your thick skull.
Saying, well, just accept it. The same what we get told. We get told.
No. I'm saying that it's an answer, and I've given him the video for it, and I want him to go away, watch it, and come back and tell us why it's wrong.
All right, but I'm just saying that I think we should be satisfying people. Yes, that's the point. That's the key. He needs satisfaction, right? And if he walks away unsatisfied, yes, then
Spurs, I've given him the answer in the form of a video that somebody's already done addressing specifically the point that he's asking, and now we're at a point where he's in an ignorant position because he has the answer, but he hasn't yet watched it. So that's why I'm inviting him to go and watch it and then come back tomorrow and then tell us why.
Yeah, that's fine. So if you watch this video and you're still not satisfied, then we'll have to look.
Can you post it in the chat, because I'm on my phone and I can't see this side chat thing.
I can't post a link in the chat. Nathan's the only one that can do that.
Because it's very important.
Send it to me on Skype,
especially if a baller is asking the question. And Woz seems very genuine in his questions. He wants to know. So he doesn't care about the globe. He wants to know how it works on the flat Earth.
Explain it to him.
Well, again,
explaining it to him, and he didn't give any signs of that he even understand what I was saying.
Well, you have it on your Skype.
Thank you. That's not relevant, though, Arwen. I mean, what you've told me is
the same damn question over and over again.
Yeah, but you're just telling me the same thing over and over again and there's nothing to back you up either. So you're telling me to trust you.
Why it is like that, and you don't seem to be understanding anything I'm saying here.
Arwen's explained it, and I've given you the explanation with regards to the
Arwen's explained it.
Arwen's explained that the sun's not physical, but your question was about...
Naps has explained lots to me as well.
Yeah, that's the point. So the link that I've sent you in the Skype, will you accept that A, I've sent you a link, and that B, you'll watch it and come
I've
back?
got your link. Thank you.
Yeah, and that you'll watch it and come back tomorrow and tell us how it's wrong.
Or tell us
I
if
won't
you're
come back if
satisfied or
Nathan's on.
not.
I don't need that.
The main thing is to know if you're satisfied or not. Yeah. So you're like, well,
No.
this doesn't satisfy me. This video, I want more.
What do you
So
mean?
what
No,
more?
you've been given the answer. How can you
Well,
be?
you can't see it today.
Well, I haven't
Was.
watched the video.
You haven't watched it yet.
You can't say the word no when you've been given the answer and you haven't yet watched it. The answer to the question is,
Well,
I've been given the link and I'll watch it and I'll come back to you tomorrow.
No, Spurs asked me if I've been satisfied. I haven't watched the video, so I have not been satisfied.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is,
your ignorance.
Hold on, and I'm saying
So
that
I
once
have to. So
I'm
if
saying once you
Spurs
watch
asked
the
me,
video.
if Spurs asked me, will you be satisfied after watching the video? I'll say I don't know. I have to watch the video.
Right, but at this point, you at least acknowledge that we've given you an answer with evidence and you can go away and watch it. But at this point, you haven't yet watched it. So you're sat in a position of ignorance because you've not yet seen it. Is that fair or not?
I can fairly say you've sent me a link to a video.
Right, but it's the answer to your question about if the Earth was flat, where would the sun be? So I've given you the answer in the video format. You haven't yet watched it, so you're now in a position of ignorance because you know the answer's there, but you haven't watched it yet. So in answer to your question, are you satisfied? The answer
I'm currently in a position of ignorance from your point of view. I am.
Yeah, exactly. You've got the answer. All we're asking is that you go away, you watch it, and come back and tell us what you think at the end of it. That's it. You have the answer.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll do that.
Yeah. Thank you. That's all we're asking.
I wanted to.
I've got the link. I've got a video. I'll watch it.
Yeah,
if it's the answer, I'll be the judge of that.
Yeah, the key is
not. Then you've got a position you can argue with.
No, the key is satisfaction, and Arwen, you have to satisfy him. I know it's difficult because we don't have all the answers. I know it's difficult. We don't have all the answers, but we can give.
We're not here to satisfy people.
Have you ever been satisfied, Spurs?
With the flat Earth, yeah, I'm satisfied.
5 kids,
no evidence for a spinning globe or anything like that.
Arwen, you don't sound.
Yeah.
I don't know if Arwen's satisfied. Could you satisfy Arwen, do you think?
I think he's asking leading questions here.
No, I only can get satisfied by.
Riley sounds very satisfied.
Yeah,
I think maybe you've spoken to Spurs before.
When Woz comes in, I'm easily satisfied when Woz comes in. It's very easy to satisfy me with Woz.
I bring beer, that's why.
Good on you, man.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of back up what I was saying about the physical evidence of the sun, because of course, it's not that we've touched the actual physical, the position of it, but we do have plenty of evidence of the consequences of what would be a physical object. And like I said, it's one thing to receive light from something, but we receive light, source of heat, thermal heat, radiant heat.
Yeah, but the heat's the consequence of the light coming through our atmosphere, right? It's not a direct consequence of the sun.
You're right, it may be, but also energy, though. And the energy we receive is a massive amount. If it were, if it were directed or concentrated enough, we could, move all the cars in the world, or move, just move big machines. And so this is kind of the evidence. I mean, I can't imagine something that was just a kind of like a rainbow, like we were talking about, or a reflection. I couldn't imagine something else being able to give off this amount of power and resources. And I can't, on top of my head, I can't think of other ones, but I'm sure there's other consequences of the sun.
I know, but in the same sentence, right? I've just listened to what you're saying. My immediate reaction is, if I get a magnifying glass and I magnify the light from the sun and I put it on my skin, that energy that's created will burn my skin easily, really, really quickly, right? It's hot, right? We know we can set fire to things. We're using that same light. Then if I'm doing that with a magnifying glass, does that make any connection whatsoever that the sun is physical? All that energy.
Yeah, you would have to assume, like I said, that the energy, like if you're saying that it was coming from the magnifying glass, or through the magnifying glass from the position where you see it as the sun, it would seem that that's where that energy was coming from.
Yeah, I accept
so
that.
Anthony,
But does it prove that?
Are you suggesting that there's some sort of magnifying glass between the sun and us?
Well, the firmament could be described as a magnifying glass if we are under a dome.
Aha, so then the sun would be on the other side of this dome.
Quite possibly.
Right. And if the sun's anywhere between 3,000 and whatever thousand miles away, the dome would be lower.
Correct.
Theoretically. Right. Okay.
But
so now we've got the sun. Now we've got the sun setting through the dome.
Possibly.
So there's a dome in the wave perspective as well.
Possibly.
And lighting up underneath of the clouds.
Possibly. And we see with sundogs that appears to support the idea that there might be a lens of some kind between us and it. You've seen sundogs, right?
Sundogs? Is that high altitude balloon or something?
Sundogs. You've not seen a sundog?
Sundogs only appear in chemtrails.
That's not true. You can
Yes,
look
it
up.
is.
I don't know the term.
I know what,
I don't know what
they say the term
I haven't
is
heard the
for it.
term before.
All right.
Yeah, right. I know what the wiki page says and what they say about it, but trust me, I've been filming the skies for the past 5 years, and when I first saw my first sundog, I didn't realise what it was. And the only time I've ever seen a sundog in the time since then, which is probably about 20 times, it's always been in a chemtrail. Always been in a chemtrail.
So if I showed you a sundog that wasn't in a chemtrail,
how do you know it's not a chemtrail? They weren't spraying before.
Right, but if I showed you a sundog that wasn't in a chemtrail, what
Right,
would
well, if you show me a sundog that isn't in a chemtrail.
All right, Nath, if you'd share my screen.
I must have filmed about 20 sundogs in my time, and every single one of them has been in a chemtrail. I've never ever once seen them in that. What the way they portray it is that it's like in an unusual condition with just normal weather. That's bull. That's bull. Utter bull. It's from chemtrails.
I've never seen one of those things from Melbourne. I've been here for 49 years.
5 years ago was the first time I saw one.
So what's this one then in terms of contract chemtrails?
Ranty, can I ask a question? Are you saying then that the sundogs are similar to what a rainbow is then, and it's reflecting off of something in the atmosphere?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Whatever's in the chemtrail is reflecting it just like a rainbow, and that's how it appears. But it's obviously more. It's more. It looks like half a sun on each side. Yeah.
So now if you see that video, the sun's below the clouds.
Damn, I'm sorry, I just clicked off it. The one I'm looking for is the one that's where the pilot's flying around and it's lensing immediately in front of him. And I was going to ask Ranty, is there any evidence of like water in the way, or vapor, or contrails, or chemtrails? Because it was on a clear blue sky day almost. Let me just find out what Spurs is saying.
I've actually got a couple on my phone, but I need to put it onto the computer because I filmed one a couple of days ago. Just like that there, that's sundog reflection chemtrails.
So to clear, Spurs is asking me to clear up. I can't remember how many kids that Spurs has. I know he has kids, but I think he might have 7 or 5, or I know he's got loads of kids, but
7.
I don't know how many kids he's got. But he's asking me to clear something up, but I don't know what I'm clearing up. So it's like if I'm clearing something up, I don't know what I'm meant to be clearing up.
You said 5.
If you said 7 kids, seven kids, you'd be cleaning up a lot, mate.
Yeah, I know he's got loads of kids. I don't know how many kids he has got. So I don't know how I can clear something up that I don't know the facts of. I know he's got more than 2 kids, put it that way.
Have you ever changed the nappy before, Anthony?
But I don't know why I'm being asked to clear it up. I don't know what I'm meant to be clearing up.
Have you ever changed the nappy before?
Have I ever changed a nappy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why?
Maybe that's what he's asking you. So.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what he's getting at. I'm not sure what he's getting at.
Ranty, let me ask you a question on your observations of sundogs. Are there different levels of intensity and dissipation with the chemtrails, or is it all consistent?
They tend to be the ones that linger. So when I say it's a chemtrail, it's normally when it's started to break up and flatten out, and that's when the sun at the right height and the right angle. That's when you get your sundogs. It's not straight out the back of the plane.
What's the right height?
Well,
what's the right height for the sun?
Listen to me, right? The last 3 that I've seen have been around midday, right? Which they always say that you only ever see them at sunset or first thing in the morning, but I've seen them during the day too. In fact, Anthony was there when he saw a damn sundog. I pointed it out to him last summer at the meetup, and we all sat around and we all watched it from Blackpool, and it was in the chemtrail that I'd been pointing out all day. So if he tries denying that.
Well, I didn't. I'll be honest. I wasn't sure whether it was a sundog or not, but I accept that there was something there. But it didn't look like a sundog that I've seen before. But that didn't make it not a sundog.
Okay. Well, yeah. So they're happening at any time now. You know, you can go out, and if you see one, you'll know when you see it because it just looks like it's another sun on the side of the sun.
Well, wouldn't that mean that sundog phenomenon has only been around for 20 years?
No, I believe it only happened probably 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, I only ever saw my first about 5 years ago, and I was so taken aback by what I'd seen because I work outside all the time, so I'm always in that environment, and it was the first time I'd seen something like that about 5 years ago.
I guess what I'm saying is that we don't have sundog images from 20 years ago.
Yeah, we don't have them from 20 years ago. P900's cool pick. She was there, and she's just confirmed it was a sundog. She was there. Yeah, because I pointed it out to everybody that was there, and it was around about 1 p.m. I would say when we saw that one, and that was in the chemtrail that I'd been following. Look at Awake Souls 2 again. P900 cool picks. Do you have fake evidence on your channel as well? Why? What's his issue with people that are putting content out that are actually doing videos with P900s? What's his beef?
So, yeah, that's still we were talking about the sun's movement in the sky and the explanation on a flat Earth, of course. You would see its size change if you measure it even with a camera, a P900 or whatever. You would see it change throughout the entire day, drastically at some points.
Sun filter.
Yeah, with a sun filter.
You could use the sun. Yep.
But we don't see this.
That then leads you to the question.
That's right.
That leads you to the question. Well, how did they measure the angles or the distances to the suns in that Aristophanes era when they didn't have solar filters?
You're
Shadows.
Right. Well, they didn't get the numbers precise, but they had the technique, the measurement technique.
Well, it was the maths that gave them the distance, right? But if you apply a different set of maths, then you get a different result.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. Is they had numbers back then, and I think the first time they had like for the ratio of the size from the moon to the sun, it was like 19, and now we have like 400. But it's over that's 2,500 years ago, and so plenty of men have corrected or made more precise these numbers. So the fact that they were incorrect or that they were they weren't exact, it doesn't mean necessarily that they were completely correct. They were just based off of things. There was a lot of things in the way that we didn't we couldn't account for, which later on they learned how to account for these things. Like I said, today we do have those sun filters, and
How far we have all gotten.
Yeah.
Just with our own resourcefulness and our own ideas, how much detail we figured out.
You know what I want to know?
Running around in circles isn't getting far.
I want to know why the science or the sciences are still unable to satisfy that people like us, for instance, think that we might not live on a ball. Why is it that science hasn't put this in like completely beyond reach of everything, and it's not even an issue? Why is it? Why do we even exist if science is doing such a good job?
Because there's certain personality traits that just can't be convinced of anything.
Certain person. Well, I could equally say that there's certain personality traits that will be persuaded by anything put out by somebody.
Exactly. That's exactly right, mate. Exactly right.
The problem is with this body of science is that if you are on the wrong side, if you are actually lying, then there's only so much you can do to basically work out the lie until there is a saturation point and you can't progress it anymore without showing how it is a lie. And that is their problem.
Realistically, how many people would have to keep it around all the different countries that have all different
well, it's
space agencies?
It's a double system. there it needs to be kept sort of a secret, but then on the other side there is a huge apparatus of indoctrination integrated into the entire world
but above
schooling
that-
system that
above
keeps the ball into the hearts of the people, so they don't necessarily need to keep it a secret. Their prime
3
objective
people?
is to keep the globe beloved by the people. That is their objective. That is the most important part. It's not to
5
keep it
people?
a secret that they're lying. They just need to make people want it to be the truth.
You realise only 3 people knew about Bill Clinton getting a head job that got out to everyone.
That's a whole different scale, and that's more political.
But I'm just trying to get an
so
idea how many people would need to keep it quiet.
thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people. But these people
keep it
would
quiet.
all, as they knew and be part of keeping the secret, they would also be profiting of that secret in various ways. So there
So
is a
thousands-
payoff to keeping the secret. You can exploit it.
Didn't work
You
with
can be
cigarette
part
companies.
of the group, part of the cabal.
They had whistleblowers as well, the cigarette companies.
Yeah, but if
Why
you're
did,
going to
why,
blow
why
the
did the
whistle,
cigarette
then
companies have a
no longer.
whistleblower?
If you're going to blow the whistle, then
Why did cigarette
first you
companies
have to
whistleblowers?
oppose the entire world being
Because-
indoctrinated, and you would
Because it's
lose your
not good.
benefits and potentially more. So
Yeah, but they still had whistleblowers in the cigarette companies, and why was that? Because cigarettes aren't good.
Yeah, but then you also have to then ask the whistleblower whether or not he was going to lose what he was gaining before. You know, if the whistleblower had nothing to lose, then he's going to blow the
Yep.
whistle.
exactly.
Yep. And you reckon there's no one in that position in all the space agencies around all the world? There's not one person in that position
Yeah, they are.
to blow the
These
whistle.
people have massive benefits. They have
No, you didn't
huge
understand me.
budgets. They are rich in relation to the rest of the people on the earth.
And I
No,
would
the answer to your question is that you only let those people in that are going to have benefits. So if a person doesn't have benefits, he's not on the in. So then he has nothing to blow a whistle about.
Well, they have to be people that are
Thousands of
viable to
people.
become attached to the wealth. That
You really
they
believe
will
thousands
act
of people
so
can
they
do
will
that?
not lose the wealth. That is the most important part. If somebody doesn't care about wealth, you're not going to draw them in. Somebody cares more about the truth, then you're not going to draw them in, because they have to be corruptible by the wealth to make sure that they don't go overboard, they don't go blow the whistle. That is how they do it.
So you reckon thousands of people
Hundreds of thousands of people, yes.
are all corrupted?
Yeah. Well,
And
we
not one
already
of them
know
has-
that pretty much everyone in politics over the entire world is
All right,
almost
well, it sounds
completely
like you honestly
corrupted,
believe that.
and that's a great more. That's like millions, if not tens
That's a
of
great-
millions of people. So yeah,
That's your belief. That's
no,
great. That's your
no,
belief.
that's pretty much the entire world's belief. Everybody knows that people in politics are almost all completely
I'm not
corrupted.
talking about politics, mate.
No, but I'm drawing the comparison.
Oh, okay.
So
I would
if hundreds of millions of people around the world, or tens of millions in politics, are widely known to be on average very much corrupted, then do you think that a smaller amount of people can't be corrupted and keeping
Yeah,
this
but we know
secret and
they're
making
corrupted.
great
There's-
benefits
They
of
get
it?
caught out. They get caught out in politics, mate. Corruption gets caught out.
Yeah,
We
and
have
does
not
that
caught
work?
anyone out.
But does
We have
that
not
work?
caught
And
anyone out
when
in-
do
in
these
this-
corrupted people
in all
get
this-
called out? Usually they only get called
In
out
politics, they get
when
caught
it's
out.
part of a move, when it's part of a move of the opposition, when it's time to actually expose that specific
It's a game of-
corruption and not the other corruption that also involves the rest of the people,
It's like
the
a game
rest
of
of the
chess.
politicians.
Get him out. It's like you corrupt. You expose someone to get them out of the ring, so to speak.
Yeah, only but only when they're no longer
Uh-huh.
part of the new plan.
Mhm.
And then only that specific corruption relating to them gets exposed, and not all the other corruption that they are probably a part of.
So the
So
hundreds of thousands of people in the space agencies are always part of the new plan because none of them get outed.
not all of them. No.
Well, they never
there's
get
still-
outed.
no, but they still have the people that are just the believers, that are basically being entertained.
I'm not naive. I know
Like
about
the people in
corruption.
the control rooms. Do you think that they all know? I don't think so. They're just very happy to be part of the space thing, so that they think it's
Yeah,
really
well, that's
cool.
what
They have
I'm
cool
asking. How
stories
many
like,
people
yeah, I
do
was
know?
there. That was really cool. They need a couple of true believers. A lot of them, actually. It's part of their system. So they don't need everyone within NASA to be in the know. Just the people that actually design the systems.
Hey, Was, let me ask you a question. When they
Yeah.
have a movie premiere and they have
Yeah.
actors that are like top drawer actors, you know, the best actors out there, and they don't want the plot of the story going out, and they don't want to release information because it'll spoil the story in the movie. So, for instance, who killed such a body in the most?
Yep. Yeah, I get it. Yep.
How do you think they keep that quiet?
They ask everyone nicely.
Right. So, what makes you think they couldn't keep other things quiet in NASA if your mortgage and your kids and your house and your car all depended on being quiet? Do you not think
So
that's
they can
possible?
keep a movie quiet for 6 months, but they have to keep NASA quiet with thousands. Well, not just NASA, actually. Plenty of other space agencies. And Australia's actually about to build their own space agency. So all those people, there's a new set of people that have to be, you know, brought
Yeah,
into
but
this so-called region.
My point is it possible though that people could be getting paid in some way?
No,
And Riley, it's not
not on that scale.
Riley, it's within NASA, the astronauts and everything, it's not even just the money. It's also the fame.
Exactly.
You get a lot of fame as an astronaut. You've
But
been
not
on
only
the
that, though.
frontier.
How many
Kids
people
will worship you, a lot of them. So
how many people does Was think would need to be kept quiet in NASA, for example? Just NASA.
That's what I'm asking you.
It's not that
I
many
don't think
people because you have the king, you
Three?
have the
Three.
king at the top, and then
Four?
he would know, and then the heads of departments they would probably know, but all of the
12.
minions that are underneath that are doing what they want, they're just putting
18.
food on the table. So like Flat Earth
83?
math teaches, his kids what he's taught to teach. If he's getting paid a living and he puts food on the table for his kids, he'll teach
I'll
them.
take a punt. 121.
Why are you doing that? I'm giving you an answer.
Well, how many people?
Not that many, because everybody else is a sheep.
Yeah, but ultimately, this is a tertiary issue. It's a tertiary issue, just like saying we have millions of stars that look like they're spheres. It's a tertiary issue. It has nothing to do with the actual shape of the Earth. That's what the issue is.
Are you familiar with Seligman's experiments in psychology? I'm sure it was
No.
It is Selig. I'm sure it's Seligman. If it's not, I'm sure somebody will correct me. Basically, you would have a person in a job. They were getting paid, and it was a setup to make. Basically, they would get paid to complete the experiment, and the experiment was there are 20 buttons that all had electric shocks attached to them, and it got gradually worse as they got down the board. So the first 5 wouldn't really be that much tall. The next 5 or 10 would be a bit of a problem, but the last 5 would be basically you're going to probably die. And the experiment that they were being paid to do was to continue through a process or a system of questions. And every time that the person on the receiving end of the question got one wrong, they'd have to apply the electric shock. Now, obviously, basically, it was a challenge because it was to see whether or not people, when being put in positions where they know it's wrong, whether they would be obedient or not based on authority. And it was a direct test of obedience to authority. And the amount of people that successfully killed the patient, in their view, was stark. And the conclusion of the experiment was when people are being paid to do stuff, they will conform to they will be obedient to authority because of the fact that it's their job. So when it comes to NASA and lying and the people necessary to cover up stuff, if you're a sheep in NASA and you're not clever enough to work it out because it's all been departmentalized, you don't need paying off. But the minute you realize that that light on the wall doesn't mean that you're in the orbit of Mars, it's just a light on the wall. Once that flicks, that switch flicks, they then got to come on the payroll because otherwise they're going to blow it. So ultimately, the challenge is they know that people will be obedient to authority, but they've got to pay them more once they realize if they ever do. So that's the reason why people in NASA would do and will lie, because they are obedient to authority, because their lives, mortgages, children, cars depend on that. Seligman's experiments, I'm sure it was. I'll check it.
So they've got to find extremely intelligent people that are easily corruptible.
Yeah, for example, Geo Strieber.
And lots of them.
Yeah, Geo Strieber, intelligent guy, but he learns and parrots the official narrative. He hasn't realized that a Coriolis effect is nonsense. He hasn't realized that gravity can't be distinguished from density, but he's been through the process. He comes out the other side with certificates. And so long as he pushes the official narrative, he'll end up in a reasonably paid job. His kids will be protected. He'll have a comfortable life. But dare go against it, and you watch it all being removed out of his pulling the rug from under his feet.
Yeah, and the public respect factor also.
But what if you didn't need them though? That we keep going on with how many people in NASA would need to be corrupted, and it could be all of them that are corrupted. But what if you didn't need them at all to solve these problems or do the experiments that would tell you the same things that they're telling you? Because I would suggest that you don't. Like to tell that they were spinning or that it's round or the size and shape of the Earth. I don't think you would need NASA, as the only reference for that evidence.
It was Stanley Milgram, not Seligman. Stanley Milgram. So if you just type in the Milgram experiment, and there's another one called
put it in chat.
Oh, right. And then you've got the other one, which is it's either the Stanford experiment, the University of Stanford experiment, which did something similar. This is all off the top of my memory. It may not even be accurate, but there is experiments out there that show that people will be obedient to authority, especially when they're being paid to do it.
I'm not doubting that at all.
Well, the answer, it puts into context the doubt in your mind with regard to how many people would it require to hide this. It's not that many, because most people are sheep when you're employed and getting paid. They'll do what they're told to do.
Yeah, I'm not doubting that, mate. I'm not. Did you realise you were stuttering then? By the way, I won't pick you up on it. But I'm not doubting that. Yeah, I know.
But based on what I just said, that's what I'm saying. It's not a small number of people in NASA you need to pay off. It's the whole population of the Earth, because you don't need NASA to figure these things out. And that's kind of what me myself. I'm trying to see if I can do these experiments and get a bunch of people to do these experiments and make these observations. But either way, it's like you wouldn't need NASA's rockets going to space in order to tell you the things that we can calculate ourselves almost.
Well,
so basically, you're saying we don't need $50 million a day.
No,
correct.
I keep suggesting to people because they'll ask me, how can I prove it right now? How can I prove it right now? And I could tell you something that you could prove it right now. And I did. I brought it up earlier in the show, and it wasn't addressed. But if the lines of longitude and latitude are correct, you would have to then put those lines of longitude and start at the equator and watch as they converge as you go north, and then go exactly in the same precise order, in the same way it did north. It would do the same thing as you go south, and then you'd have to turn this into a three-dimensional shape.
Yeah, but you're assuming.
Anthony's got a problem with south.
Well, I also have a problem with north. Right, so let's go with south then. Why is your south in Australia different to the south in South America or the south in South Africa? Why have you got your own?
Is it different?
Yeah, we've had this conversation before about declination.
I didn't. I'm not following you. Sorry, mate.
Have I not had a conversation with you before about declination?
When on text or?
Perhaps it wasn't with you. Perhaps it was with your left wing man. What's the other guy called?
Left wing man. I've got no left wing man.
Sorry, I think the phrase is the wingman. It was
wingman. I've got no wingman.
What's the other
thinking I've often been confused with Rufif in the past, just because of the accent.
Not Rufif. There's
Wolfie?
was and who's the guy with the race car? The Commodore.
Oh, Rig. The Rig.
Yeah. Maybe I'm getting you mixed up with Rig. What was I saying then? I forgot what my trail of thought was.
You're saying, how do you know where the South Pole is or something?
Yeah, why have you got your own separate, your own version of South? It's because of something called declination. But why is that when we only have two poles? Both. When you line up to south, yours is different, and you have a declination adjustment depending on whereabouts in Australia you are. and it can be as much as 14 or 15 degrees out if you're over on the east coast of New Zealand, and it's as low as 7, 8, I think it is, if you're on the west coast. So depending on whereabouts you are in Australia, you have this thing called declination. So with regards to magnetic intensity field map, now we live on a world, according to science, that is we have two poles, right? And the ballers argue that this is an intensity field map. But the problem is, if we have two poles, there should be one pole at the bottom where 0 is, and all the fields should emanate from there and only there. And we have another pole up here somewhere at 0, and all the fields should emanate to and from there. So we should have a very obvious, pretty uniform intensity field map, right? But we appear to have.
I have to take your word for that.
Well, I'm showing it on screen. If you click on my.
Yeah. No, but I have to take your word for what you're saying about what you're showing on screen.
Well, this isn't my citation. This isn't my work. This is somebody else's. But if you type in magnetic field map of the world, you can see numerous references that indicate that there appear to be, at best, anomalies. But I would argue these are poles, and these are affecting stuff that we're not even told about. Nobody ever.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I have to take your word for it that they are. That what you say is true. It's your word. It's your word saying they're poles.
No, you don't. So let's just show what magnetic fields of Earth. If we go to NASA and we look at the magnetic field of Earth, we get something that's like this. So what we should be seeing, if you can still see this, we should be seeing that if we were to translate what we see here and apply it to where is it gone? There. Can you see how these are not? Can you see how these are not similar? Because we should have these all these magnetic fields, because we have a south pole, we have a north pole, and they should all follow a pattern that you should be able to use your discernment and translate into this and realize that these are all going generally in an east to west direction, and we should be
my discernment isn't that refined to be able to translate that to that.
Well, okay. Well, there appears to be a pole of.
So I don't know how to do that, so I'll have to take your word for it.
That's okay. Well, look at the intensity.
I'll have to take your discernment.
Well, you don't have to. You can interpret this yourself if you look at it. You can see that the values along these lines here are, well, there's 65,000 here, so there's greater than 65,000 in the middle, but there's a 35,000 up here. So that's like the opposite of what you're seeing down here. But you'd have another 65,000 up here somewhere, and then you have another low value down here. Now, these are whatever's going on here, and I'm not going to assert that there's anything going on here other than this is inconsistent with the idea that we live on a ball that gives us these poles, because we're told that these are the poles and this is where north is and this is where south is, and that's how we all get north and south. So when you say Aunt Riley's got a problem with south, well, I do, because what we've got on screen right now appears to conflict with the intensity field map of the world, because there's at least two poles here that seem to be opposite. There's two poles here that seem to be opposite, and there's another one up here that's got a high value, and there must be a corresponding low value somewhere that this relates to, because it appears to be paired up in some way. But that's not the same as what we're told that we live on, because we have one north and we have one south, and we don't have these magnetic fluctuations to the extent that is demonstrated on screen. So when it comes to looking south, you guys have something called declination. And if you look it up, you can look up declination values in Australia, and it'll tell you that depending on how far east or west you are, it'll vary between about 9 to about 14, depending on how far east or west you are. And it's to do with the interaction of these two hotspots, these magnetic anomalies, which means that you guys don't have the same south as to the compass that we all do, because we're told that south is literally looking south. Now, the declination adjustment for South Africa is 1. I think the declination adjustment for Chile or Argentina is 3. But for some reason, yours is 14. But why do we even have a declination adjustment if south is south, which is the opposite of north on a compass? Shouldn't it be the case that what we live on is, if you point out where north is, south is the opposite position, and it should be uniform for everybody in the southern hemisphere?
Right, Anthony, have you finished your point now?
My question is, why does
stop breathing for 25 minutes?
Why does declination exist if Riley's got a problem with south? You know what I mean?
An answer for that, and that is that there is not a specific magnetic pole. The declination is about the magnetic South Pole. There's more than one.
I agree with you, but I'm asking because Woz thinks that Riley's got a problem with south, but that's an ignorant position, because there is a problem with south. And all I'm saying is the answer is declination, but why is it even there? So Arwen's giving you the answer.
Mechanics. But
Arwen's
there's still the celestial South Pole.
Yeah. So
And that's a
Arwen's,
more reliable way to determine
Yeah.
what the south direction is.
so Arwen's just given the answer that I was hoping he wouldn't actually give. But my question was,
You know me.
why is declination a thing if south is so easy to ascertain?
And with that, I think I'll say first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully for sharing this debate. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you hated the show, well then you know what to do. But if you liked it, maybe consider sharing it or subscribing if you haven't done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!